Welcome to our early summer garden tour. I'm Casey at the Lawrence Garden Farm. So Jason and I are going to take a walk through the garden, and I'm going to share with you just things that we notice and see, and I'll share with you my methods of planting throughout. There will always be tips if, I'm in the video, because I can't help but tell everything that I'm doing with something just to help you guys. But we are just kind of taking a walk right now, and we ran into the hollyhocks over here, which is one of my favorite times of year to see these hollyhocks come into bloom. They never come up in the same spot. They stay in the same vicinity here. They're actually biannual, so they are not, perennial or annual. So they come back every year, but it's through reseeding itself. So it'll come in within the same area, but not in the specific, from the plant or from the root or anything like that. But we've had these here now, I'd say, for about 5 years, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And I could really go ahead and cut these, but we don't have a ton of these. So I'm just going to leave them here because I like them to be able to reseed in this area over here and give us this beauty at the end of June here. I have to water this today. This needs it. We'll give it a blast after.
We got Dove City over here.
Yeah. Look at them. They're coming in, looking for stuff. I think this is where I threw Chili's old seed, so there's probably some good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
Yep. Chili's our parakeet, in case you aren't familiar with some of our pets.
That's how I got our opening scene.
Yeah. But don't look here. I need to water. There's so much to water every day, but I love it, and so I'm not complaining, but sometimes you forget a little one, and it's okay because once you water it, it'll pop back.
That one's kind of out of the way, so I can see how it could get forgotten.
Yeah. There's so much to see and so many gardens to see, so I think we're gonna also not only hit some of our raised beds with annuals, but I would really love to hit some of our perennial gardens as well. I know this is a flower video, but every time I come over here, these little fluffy butts, they steal the attention, they steal the show. They're just the most cutest little silky chickens ever. And we put them out and we take them in every single day, and they're just so cute.
Okay.
If you love silky chicks, Jason did put out a video called Chickscapes, and it's literally just 15 minutes of silky chicks moving around and playing together. It's super cute.
I actually changed it to Chicks Gone Wild because it wasn't getting a lot of views with the other one, so I figured,
That's what happens when your husband
Chicks
is
Gone
in charge
Wild,
of naming
and
the
then
video.
in parentheses, the fluffy kind.
The fluffy kind.
Yeah.
If you like them all natural. View of this garden area here. These gardens surround our fire pit, which I created last year, and I'm really proud of it because it was my first mason job. Oh, we're getting thunder. Anytime I specifically go to make a video, there's always a battery problem, a camera problem, or a storm problem. So let's hope that this holds off here. So if you notice along the edges here, we did a lot of trailing petunias. So that way when we drive through here, we will be able to see all this beautiful color along the driveway. We have a driveway here because the kids love riding. So do Jason and I. We love riding, taking walks, but that way you can drive through the garden and just have a good time. And so anyways, so these over here, these petunias, we've got the Vista Paradise petunia here. It's more of a hot pink than what it shows here. Hot pink mixed with like a little bit of a raspberry kind of coloring. We have the Supertunia giant pink that's trailing down. So this one you do need to pinch. If you don't pinch it, it trails super long. It does either way. That's its natural growing habit, is just trailing super long. But if you don't pinch it, it's one of those that will get a flat top. So that's why it's nice to pair it with something a little bushier like the Vista Series Paradise right here. So pinching, if you're unfamiliar, I'll just show you really quick. I show this in a lot of my videos, is see this right here? This is a longer vine kind of coming out. That way, so it doesn't just keep growing out and then get heavy and fall flat. What we're gonna do is we're gonna come right in here. We're gonna take the tip of this plant right here off. Right there, see, just that. If the bud comes with it, don't worry, it's gonna create more buds. You're not gonna have, you know, less flowers or anything, but when you pinch right there, what it does is it stops the plant from growing super long for a little bit, and then it forces all of these other growths along this stem right here to start growing out of that. And that's how you create multiple branching off of one branching vine. And that'll help it become more bushy, but like I said, that one is just naturally more longer trailing. And this one over here is the Super Tunia Jazzberry. So it's more like fuchsia, purple kind of mixture there. Amethyst, I guess you could say. It's actually a super beautiful color. So I love mixing all different types of pinks and purples and really any color. Once everything in here, all this looks green now, but these are gonna be solid flowers. It's gonna be so beautiful and just absolutely amazing. And right here too, I have some of the Pro Cut sunflowers. So these don't get super tall. These ones I directly sowed into the garden when I planted everything else. So they obviously germinate pretty quickly here because they're bypassing a lot of the other plants in the vicinity of where it is located. And as those grow, those will get about 4 feet tall at the very most. And then they only get one stem. You can cut it or you can leave it. We leave it for the finches. Oh, look at CeeLo over there enjoying the little couch. So beyond the sunflowers then, we have some snapdragons right here. As you can see, they're starting to bud out. I do see a little weed. Ugh, there we go. Anytime I see weeds, I weed the whole time that I am gardening, because when you stay on top of it early on, you end up with none later on, as long as you are an overstuffer like me. You give it no room to give it sunlight to even grow. So over here then we have the, one second, cut, okay. Over here then we have the Heliochrysum. So these are just straw flowers. I've talked about those in videos in the past on why I love them. And I don't really want to get into that too much because I really want to cover some other flowering varieties that you guys can get ideas with for your own gardens and possibly include into your gardens in the future. So over here then I do have some of the Victoria Blue Salvia. So we're going to have blue. We're going to have multicolored Heliochrysum. And these, I don't know what color these snapdragons are because I did a ton of different colors and I didn't label where I placed those specific colors in here, but I know I did a mixture of purples, pinks, oranges, all of that kind of stuff, some doubles, some regulars, some traditionals, you know, all that good stuff. So, and then over here, let's see, we got little baby snaps. These are really low growing snaps. So if you're in a really hot area, snapdragons really aren't the flower for you unless it's part of your cooler season, which is probably a shorter window for you. I'm not completely sure because I don't live where you do, but I do know from comments, people saying in the hot weather it doesn't always last for them as well. So we have tons of calendula. So I love harvesting calendula. We make an amazing infused oil, which we do show in a video here on the channel that is so easy to duplicate, but so amazing for your skin to give it that beautiful summer glow. It helps with eczema. It helps with dry, flaky skin, itching, even mosquito bites. We put it on mosquito bites, weird little rashes or whatever, like, you know, like little itchy marks, or, you know, if your swimsuit gets too wet, like the little chaff here. Helps on all of that stuff, so it's amazing. And over here we do have some millet up in here, and I love millet because once it starts seeding out, it is definitely a favorite for the small birds. And as you can see, we are having a little resistance here with nature. Nature's like, all right, you are not making a video tonight.
Like some bass in the video or something. I don't know.
Well, I did say up in here. I did say the millet was up in here. Yeah, okay, stupid. But more snaps. So when I do plant snaps, I love using the cut flower snaps. Also discussed this in past videos, but I do think it's important to constantly share things, especially since, you know, if someone's new or whatever. So when I do plant snapdragons that are cut flowers, I don't always plant them like you see in the cut flower farms or gardens. I like to plant them sideways, so that way they trail down. And when they trail down, then look at, they're trailing down, and then they go ahead and then they reach up for the sun. So they actually make an amazing trailer, even if you do these in combinations, like your container gardens. I show that in our garden tour last year, garden tour part 1 of our summer garden tour, at the late one. There's part 1 and there's part 2. In part 1, I share a lot about the snapdragons trailing down. So if you want more info on that, you can go and take a peek at that video. Over here we have our ageratum. I love these ageratums. These are the tall blue planets.
I love those too. I was wondering what those were called. I was going to ask you, but those are one of my favorites.
Yeah. They're amazing because the flowers last like so long and they just keep producing all season long. It's not like, oh, it's in bloom now, so it won't be in bloom later. Yeah. Nope, but you do need to cut off the bad flowers. Once they're retired, they'll start turning a little brown. And all I do is, come on up here, Jason, I'm just gonna share with them a little bit just in case someone does have ageratum and they're unsure of how to trim. So say this one here is brown. These ones everywhere else are living and just starting to flourish. All you do is cut off this flower. As these go brown, then you just go down right to the next set of leaves and cut that off. And when I do plant these, I actually trim all of the tips, that pinching technique that I just showed earlier in the video, and that helps create this to become more bushy rather than just one upright stalk of flowers. Also, when I do seed these, because we do seed 90 to 95% of the garden that you see here in that little tiny greenhouse. Well, I shouldn't say tiny, but for the amount we grow, the amount I can fit and grow in that house, it is stuff. So that's why I say tiny, because of the amount we grow. It's not a tiny greenhouse, but it's tiny for the amount, you know? But anyway, so when I do seed the ageratum, I do multi-seeds per cell. So what that means is, you know, 4 to 5 seeds per cell, so that way you get multi-plants in one bundle. And I do that with a lot of the things that I seed, mainly because that way you get a bushier plant right away and you don't just have one stalk. So it's, you know, it comes down to your preference, but that's what I prefer. I like when I plant a plant, I know it's gonna bush, it's gonna create multiple stems in one section, and that's, you know, amazing. Look how bushy this thing is. Come on. Who can say you're doing it wrong, right? There's always times where someone's like, well, that's not how you do it. Well, you know what? That's how I do it. Right. And it looks good. It looks good. So if you aren't familiar with our channel or you're new to our channel, I've been gardening since a baby. I grew up on a farm. I grew up in a greenhouse business, which is a really well-known garden center. And that's what I did for most of my life. And then I started this garden and started sharing it here, and that's what I do now. So
this toy was a garden shears.
Yeah, well, I don't want the camera to get wet, so we got to take a little break. My favorite seat in the house. Oh man, it's really coming down. You know, whenever I start a video, I swear something always happens. Like I just said already before, but you know, I like rain, but the one thing that like I don't like for when I'm doing a garden tour is after the rain, the plants are kind of, you know.
Right.
So the rain has finally stopped, and it wasn't just rain, it was a downpour. But we are going to continue, and you know, I'm glad I showed you guys the petunias already, because you know how petunias look after a downpour. So we're just gonna kind of move on, and I'm gonna share more flowers and combinations with you guys and just have fun. We just walked out the garden door. That's what we call the exit of that door off of our house here. And we're coming out onto the new washing station, which isn't done, but you can kind of see the view out of the washing station a little bit. So it's very neat. So before we move on too far away from this deck, I really wanted to be able to show you guys this container because it's so weird, but I don't know what it is. I just absolutely love it because it's the most random combination here. But we've got these beautiful flowering maples. I don't know if you guys have ever seen flowering maples, but they are so beautiful. They look like, what's that paper called?
Tissue paper.
Tissue paper, yeah. So that's kind of what they look like. So it's almost like an apricot color here. And there's more of a more vibrant one down here. Oh, it came off. Sorry, plant.
She broke it. She broke the plant.
No, it's okay. But look at how the leaves really kind of mimic that maple tree.
They do, yeah. Okay, so that's why it's called what it is then.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when Jason and I used to live in the city, when we were first married, one of my most favorite planters had flowering maple in it, and it was a variegated flowering maple. And I haven't found the variegated leaf like since then, but I was really happy to see that my family's garden center had the actual flowering maple this year, and it has grown so big. Anytime I've found it, like since the time that we had it when we lived in the city, I feel like they all have stayed small, or they've gotten thrip to the point where I couldn't get ahead of it. Thrip is a bad bug that can get on plants. It's very hard to see, but they're very prone to it. But these have gotten, they're just so vigorous. They've gotten so large, they're beautiful, they're amazing. So let me show you a couple other things in this container that I absolutely love. Here we have this zebra potato vine. It's super cute. I love it. It's a really nice, you know, filler and spiller for your containers. So it's a really nice trailing variegated leaf. And it also gets these gorgeous white flowers. So I'm really loving that. I'm not usually a fan of white flowers, but in this application, I absolutely love it. And then we also have some Lantana here. This is part of the bandana series. So they have different colors with these. And then once again, we have the Vista Paradise, which I do love the Vista series Super Patunias from Proven Winners because of their, you know, growth habit and how vigorous they are and how full they are. Vistas are a series where you can pinch them to keep them full, but if you chose not to pinch them at all that season, you wouldn't get a flat top petunia. So that's what I love about them, is really you can go ahead and have no maintenance other than maybe just a few bad flowers coming off. But when you're deadheading petunias, you know, when it comes to like more of the patented varieties, for example, Proven Winners, I always just take off the bad flower. When it comes to petunias that are seeded petunias, that you're seeding yourself for your garden beds, those have to be deadheaded in a completely different way. And I'll show you that right now. Let's just pretend that this giant pink Super Petunia right here is an actual seeded petunia. So if this was a seeded petunia, in order to deadhead it, you actually don't want to just take off the flower easily, you know? So like, let's just show right here quick. Usually with Super Petunias and patented varieties like that, I usually just go like this and just pull that off. So now let's say this isn't a brand new flower, right? Because we kind of know this is going to be a brand new flower, okay? But let's just pretend it's a dead flower. So if this were a seeded petunia, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove that whole head, the greenery, what it was connected to right there, that whole thing. Because after the dead flower is there, there's actually seeds inside when it's a seeded one. And those seeds actually take a lot of the plant's energy. So what kind of happens then is if you leave this on there, you're going to end up with a plant that all of a sudden feels stunted and it's not growing as much and it's no longer blooming maybe once a week with one bloom. So that's what helps it continuously bloom. That's what helps it continually grow. So that way it can put its energy and focus into the actual growth of the plant and producing more. In our corner beds, we have the really large dahlias, and a lot of times you see these just on their own because the growth alone is so huge. And even though I know that, I still planted more varieties amongst them. And I know it's gonna start getting a little tight. So what I start doing to make sure that things don't get too tight amongst the dahlias, because dahlias can sometimes get like a mildew on the leaves, which can take over the plant and kill it. And how that happens is from being, you know, wet at night, and it's when we start getting like that early morning dewy kind of like wetness from, you know, the moisture in the air, and that creates the mildew. So when they get that, to prevent that, since it can be a little bit more susceptible to that when other varieties are growing kind of near it, what I started doing this week is I started removing leaves that were really low. So that way it kind of give it a little bit more air. It needs room to kind of just allow the breeze to run through to dry out the leaves. If there is no air moving through because it's so, you know, stuffed with other varieties, or just the fact that it has old leaves or big leaves kind of like, you know, heavy on top of new growths, that's what can really fester that mildew in there. So I just went ahead and removed any leaves around like the bottom that were touching the surface of the soil. So I just kind of move around here and just kind of trim things up as they're needed and really tend to the garden as I feel like is fit. And that's kind of what I do with, you know, the overstuffing. So if you're not an overstuffer and you space things, you know, the way that you're supposed to or appropriately, you know, you probably won't have as much of a problem, but still removing those leaves around the bottom that touch the surface of the soil or touch other varieties, that really does help prevent that. And it doesn't take care of all of it, but it will contribute to a more successful dahlia over the whole season, all the way till the end. Always check my dahlias for bugs as well, because a lot of times if I see some bugs, I want to spot treat. So if I see bugs on just a few leaves, I'll spot treat them with a spray. So there's many different organic sprays or whatever you want to use. You know, I'm a channel where I'm like, you know what, it's a learning channel. You do what you need to do. And for us though, we really prefer using a Monterey spray, which is actually an organic one, and then also like a pyrethrin, which is like made from marigolds. So if we do that, we do it very late in the day when the sun is down, and we only spot treat. So it'll be mainly under the leaves. So one of the main little critters that loves to come on flower plants is called thrips, and there's so many different kinds of thrips. There's not just one, so don't be fooled. But what we like to do is just kind of, you know, what we'll do is we'll usually just spray right under a leaf where we see it, and just maybe a few. And a lot of times we do it around the bud, because the bud is where they like to go. They like to eat that bud before it can bloom, like this beautiful blooming one here is fine. And I only saw like 1 or 2 thrips, so I'm not going to really do anything about it right now. I used to do more preventative spraying, but now that we've got the garden under control, it took us quite a few years to get our organic garden here under control, because you have to be able to draw in beneficials and get them to come back every year and multiply in your garden. And the only way to do that is to kind of suffer, have like a suffering period. It's almost like you're giving away your plants basically to the bad bugs for about 1.5 to 2 years, just so that way you're bringing in the good bugs, because you need the good beneficial bugs to eat the bad bugs. And so it's like you need like that good, what is that called, balance?
Yep.
You need that balance, and in order to create that balance, it takes time. It's not overnight. So I'm not going to do preventative spraying. I'm going to just leave it a few more days. If I start noticing curling of the leaves or a blossom not blooming, then I know it's time to start giving it a little spot treatment. That doesn't mean I'm going to go over my whole garden and spray it or anything, nothing like that. We're going to just do a little spot treat, because we don't want to affect the balance that's going on in the garden. Over here, we've got our kohlrabies. It's one thing that I've loved since I was pretty young, were the kohlrabies, but now I realize that the kids love them, so we have more. Also, of course, Grandpa's growing some for us as well, so that way we can have some later on when ours are gone. But we just kind of grew them along the sides here.
Good.
Look how beautiful those kohlrabies look. Yeah.
About the size of a softball right now.
Yep, so these ones get a little bit bigger. These ones are, I believe it's called Cossack or Kozak. So they're...
Cusack?
A John Cusack. It's a John Cusack kohlrabi. but these ones get extra large. You can always harvest them earlier, but they're meant to get large, and we love them fresh, but I actually love them. So I slice them like probably about less than a 1/4 inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, so pretty thin. And then I will dress them in avocado oil and garlic powder, salt, a little bit of black pepper, and some Parmesan. And I will bake it in the oven. And it is so amazing. So you bake it just for a little bit so it gets a little bit soft, but then also you get a little crisp from that Parmesan. Delicious, but also good fresh. So my kids love fresh food, so we don't have to cook a ton, but they haven't tried it that way because they've always been like, no, I don't want to try it. But all of a sudden this year they love kohlrabi, so I'm gonna cook up some kohlrabi for them. They're about to taste the flavor. Here's one of my favorites. It's the white sage, and that is one that's a little bit hard to germinate, but this year my germination rate was so amazing. I have so much of the white sage. I love using these in my bundles. I love burning it in the house for that earthy smell. It just smells so amazing. If you don't,
I love it too. I love the smell of it.
Yeah, good thing he does.
It makes the house feel.
Yes.
It's definitely something that I really, really enjoy.
Good, because I do it a lot.
And I've already told her that, but you know.
Well, it just has this feeling, you know, but so many did so well and they germinated this year to where I have tons of these. So if you are interested in purchasing any of these, you know, white sage plants, because I have so many left, just let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Casey Lynn Lawrence. I'll put it right below here. Just send me a DM, let me know. We can send it out because we are going to have our store this year, but we don't have the store running right now. So this is just kind of like, I have extras and I'll sell a few of them, you know. Yeah, we can ship it. We can do pickup. I mean, whatever you want, you know. But it's really hard to find white sage unless you grow it yourself. And it's hard for people to grow it a lot of times because of the germination rate. But
Casey's got it down to a science.
I do, yes, yep. But anyway, so let's kind of scooch on to choose what I want to talk about because there's so many things. I'm gonna stop for a little snack over here though. I got some peas. Yep, so these peas right in here are actually the edible pod peas. So they're just a basic sugar snap pea, which are super good. But my favorite are the Maxigols, which are the not edible pod, but the shelling pea. And those ones are huge. So the sugar snaps don't get super large little peas in there, but they're pretty large anyway. And when I was little, I used to open up the pod and shell them anyway because I never loved the actual pod. I was always just like the pea girl. Oh gosh, that sounds terrible. I was not the pea girl. I was not the pea girl. Erase that.
Erase that. Nope, I'm not gonna write it down.
Yeah, that's good. I like the pod now. I got Maxigols over here. So now.
Wait, hold on. So that's a different variety. The Maxigols are
Yep.
different than what we got over here?
Yeah, that's the sugar snap edible pod peas because Selah wanted those this year. She wanted the edible pod. Yep.
So,
You've been eating the whole Maxigol
I've been
pod,
eating
haven't you?
all varieties.
Well, it's not going to kill you. It's not like it's poisonous. It's just that sugar snaps have just like the whole pod is sweet, whereas a shelling peas pod is a little bit firmer. It doesn't have as much of that sweetness. So, I mean, if you eat it, like I said, it's not going to kill you, but like it's also like not like delicious, you know? But here's a really big one. So this isn't as long as the pods usually are, but these are the earlier ones that you know, are ready and ripe for eating. So I'm gonna open this up, but they're always full, nice and full. Look at that.
Yeah, that's like a perfect pod. The perfect pod.
Yep. It's really good. Don't film me eating.
Why not? This is real life.
Well, because I got the microphone up to my mouth.
Better yet, that's what the kids call ASMR. Right.
So I'm cool right now. Okay. I'll roll with that. But Maxigol is my favorite because the peas are super sweet. You get large pods, large peas, super good. So, one thing too, that I have over here are the snacking peppers. So I have lunchbox peppers, but I also have these sweet chocolate cherry peppers. And when I saved seeds last year, something happened with the paper that I had them all saved on. I had it written out. I was letting them kind of dry out for 24 hours inside the house. And someone must have grabbed something.
On the ceiling fan. It all went to heck.
No, all the seeds mixed together. So this year we've got a mixture. So whether they cross, I don't know. But if they stay the same, I can tell which is which. So let's come over here. So the sweet chocolate cherry pepper, it's a really small snacking pepper, has more of like this little variegated stripe on it. So this will be the cherry. Here's a cherry, but then you also have a lunchbox. And I only saved the lunchbox red and orange. Not that we don't like the yellow, it's just that the red and the orange tend to be just that much sweeter, and the girls really like those colors.
Not that there's anything wrong with the yellow. if you're a fan of Seinfeld, you know.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah, we really aged ourselves there. Yep. But then I also placed marigolds around them. And these I all seed started myself. I seed save a lot of things. But yeah, these are shorter growing marigolds, and these are the taller growing marigolds. And so these ones here I put around the peppers because, you know, marigolds, if you don't know, they do help deter bad bugs because they don't like the smell of the marigolds. And if you smell the marigolds, I don't think they smell bad, but I can see because they do have more of that potent smell. You know, it's like more of like that. Marigolds just have this smell even to me just growing up. I mean, it was one of those first annuals that we grew and sold to, you know, the public as a garden center. So, I mean, to me, it's almost like nostalgic. A lot of these things are nostalgic to me. But I can definitely see why, you know, bugs don't like it because it is strong. But this is also what one of the organic sprays is made out of. So marigolds can create a homemade pesticide that go on your plants and won't be killing everything as long as you wait till the sun's down at the end of the day. Because you don't want to burn your plants. And always test it on your plants. So don't say, Casey told me to use this and now my whole garden's burnt and up to a crisp and brown. Please do a test first. That's where I'll leave it. These are one of my all-time favorites since a kid. Love Lies Bleeding Amaranthus. And this will give you volunteers all year, every year, if you allow it. Because these ropes will get super long and there will be a lot of seeds that fall off, but the finches and all the other little birds, they'll come in and they'll eat off of this. If you leave this here all winter long, they'll come in and they'll try and find seeds off of this thing all winter long. Yep, just like the sunflowers, you know, you can add things into your garden to be natural bird feeders that will provide for nature throughout the whole season. So when we're inside the house, we can watch these things come into our garden and snack and live and grab materials for nesting and little homes. And you know, it's just really fun. You draw in nature in those off seasons. Yeah, is it kind of a bummer to have to do a big garden cleanup when you're ready to get in the garden? Yes, I will tell you that. But in the winter, is it sad to see the boxes with absolutely nothing and cleaned up? Yes, it's very sad. They look like ovens. Not anymore. We don't have those straight ones anymore. But yeah, but it feels sad. So it is, you know, it's give or take. So it's one or the other. Do you want it to look sad in winter? Or do you want to feel like, oh great, now I got to go do all this extra work early spring? I'd rather do the work than be sad in the winter because we already got the winter blues. Right. But here, this does trail nice, but see, I was expecting this to kind of come off the corner more. It's starting to peek in here, over here on my alocasia. What's alocasia? This is calocasia. Anyway, so this, I need to kind of, and this one's the heart of the jungle. It's finally taken off, by the way, that calocasia. But, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of moving it this way, and I'm kind of just bringing it this way. Oh, look at, what is that? Like a little, oh, those are little pill bugs.
Oh yeah.
They're like, oh, we
Little
love
scoundrels.
We love the bark in your bed. It's amazing. It's okay. All right, so there we go. I know this looks a little weird, okay? Maybe I went a little too much, but
Well, it'll correct.
it will correct, because once the sun comes up tomorrow, it's going to be like, I'm going where I want to go, you know? But I want it to come off this way more, and then the potato vine here is going to trail, and it's literally going to just fill the floor. And that way it's not going to take over all of these varieties, because right in here I have gomphrenias, and these are going to get nice and bushy with a lot of these beautiful little like pink polka dot flowers. And they're more of like an amethyst color, like pinky purple, but really vibrant, and it gets like hundreds of these on one plant. So I absolutely do not want these to get covered, because they are going to add such full, colorful beauty over here. All right, so this guy got blown a little bit during that storm, so we'll kind of bring that up a little bit, shake it. The wet water can sometimes, you know, weigh down the leaves. So this one here is like 2.5 years, almost 3 years old. So in case you're wondering how long you have to maintain a eucalyptus, anytime I've brought a eucalyptus in the house, it has died. Anytime I keep them in the greenhouse, it lives. So my assumption is that it needs moisture on the leaves, like a humidity. So if you want to try it in the house, which I can try one in the house just to kind of see if this, you know, theory is correct, but I believe it's correct, is that you need to mist the leaves every single day. Misting the leaves will keep the humidity effect on it inside of the house, because in the greenhouse, it's always got humidity in there. And that's what I believe keeps it going. Because eucalyptus is sappy, like if it does have one of those divots or stems, I had Jason come up close so that way you can see it's actually like, it's a tree. Eucalyptus is really a tree, but for us, it's a plant that we grow in containers here. But what happens is that attracts mealybugs. So mealybugs love sappy plants. They won't attack this until there's something for them to attack. If they sense weakness in a sappy plant, or they sense there's a break in a sappy plant, they find it. I don't know how. I don't know if they're like CIA. I have no idea. Like
They got spies.
They know. If you got a sappy plant and it's got a tear, they're like, we're on it. We're there. And they're all up in it, investigating it and taking it out. That's the only time I've ever had mealybugs on it. You'll find mealybugs mainly on like succulents. Or they also love white sage. White sage plants are extremely sappy. Anything sappy, sticky, all of that. Like that's where you can a lot of times find mealybugs are attracted to. So what do you guys think of these little pail containers? You guys remember when I made that video? If you're new here or haven't watched it, I created these little pail containers, just little livestock pails from Farm and Fleet, under $10. Holes in on the bottom, put your fun stuff, put a little hook, a sturdy hook. How gorgeous. That bubblegum petunia is looking nice. That scavola is doing amazing. And there's also some little hidden treasures in there that I added after the fact, after the video. And I was like, I need to add just one other touch of color. So I did add a little bit in of some snapdragons that are not blossoming yet, but they will be. And those ones were Dom Butterfly Bronze. It was either bronze or the rose, either one. I grew quite a few varieties of those because I love it. Those snapdragons, the Madame series, has a double flower on them, which just makes it look even that much more like detailed, dainty, and super beautiful. Ooh, I'm coming up on my Stella Dioros. Look how pretty they are. They look so gorgeous. So these are super hardy for us here in Wisconsin. Even really, really low zones. They are just absolutely amazing. They're just one of those, you know, go-tos for landscapers that they know like will not die out from the winter for their customers. Like they're like, oh, you know, I remember when my sister and we used to run the city location, and, you know, landscapers would come in and they'd be like, you know, you got any of those Stellas? You got any of those Stellas? And I'm like, Stella! Me and my sister started making fun of them. I'm like, they're here for Stella! You know? They'd come in for them because they're true blue. They last like so amazing and they're hardy. And I mean, that's just, you know, if you're looking for something that returns, gives beauty, but also, you know, like that nice green structure all season long in a perennial bed, the Stella Dioros are absolutely awesome. Here's that snapdragon effect I was just talking about, and it was probably in the background when I was trying to explain it. So you wouldn't have to go see that video unless you really want to. But this is how I, plant them downward, and this is how they trail down, but then reach for the sun with their blooms, and look how absolutely gorgeous. And it will only multiply the growths, the blooms as the season goes on. It's so pretty. And look at it with this gorgeous Kofia right here. So this Kofia also does produce seeds. So once there's bad flowers on here, and bad flowers I just mean by they're completely finished, I allow some to go brown, and then I keep those ones for seed saving. That's where you find a lot of the seeds, is in the flowers. I feel like we haven't touched on nearly like a quarter of our entire gardens, but I feel like we're getting kind of long here in the video, and I would love to continue this in another video. So that way you guys can take in all the information, absorb the information, and really use it in your own garden. So I'll be back then again soon. So if you want, feel free to subscribe, let us know in the comments how you loved this video. We really appreciate you guys watching. So thank you so much, and have a good night.